Chapter 6, Job Hunt and Settling In, Part 3. You girls okay? I asked, looking down at the fillies. I then realized neither of them had cutie marks on their arms. Daniel, are you all right, darling? Rarity asked, running up to us. I smiled a little at her. Yeah, I'm okay, but I'm worried for the moment about these fillies, I said, looking at the three on my chest. The bright yellow filly rubbed her eyes. Yeah, we're fine. Thanks for the save, mister, she said in a young western voice. She opened her eyes and looked up at me, and then her own eyes went wide as saucers and her jaw dropped. The others shook themselves out of their own daze and looked up at me as well. She had the same reaction with her. Sweetie Belle, are you okay? Rarity asked the white filly. I'm all right, Rarity, the white filly answered, still looking at me. You know her, Rarity? I asked. Of course I do. She's my younger sister, Rarity responded. I didn't know you had a younger sister, I said, surprised. Rarity chuckled at that. Sorry for not telling you, dear, she said in embarrassment. It's all cool. Smiling, I looked back at the three young fillies who were still shocked. None of you are hurt, right? They got off of me and dusted themselves off. We're all right. We've had closer calls in the past, White Filly responded. Honestly, you three need to watch where you're going. You three could have been hurt if Daniel wasn't here, Rarity said at the three young fillies. Now apologize. The three fillies turned to me and bowed their heads. We're sorry, they said in unison while giving me the puppy eyes. No, not the puppy eyes, anything but that. I can't take it. How can I be mad at those adorable faces? The three girls smiled at me, and one of them gasped and pointed a finger. Look, he doesn't have a cutie mark. The other two gasped and smiled big at me. Of course I don't have a cutie mark. Humans don't get them, I explained, shrugging. They all let out a collective gasp and looked at me with shock once again. You're really a human? Yellow filly asked me. In the flesh. The white filly, Sweetie Belle, I think, turned to Rarity. Rarity? Daniel is being honest, girls. He's a human, 100%, she responded. The three remained silent until the orange filly spoke. That is awesome! Wow, she acts the same way Rainbow does. You're a human for real? I can't believe it. This is amazing, the yellow one shouted. This is so cool. You look amazing, especially with that mane and your clothing, Sweetie Belle said. No wonder why she's Rarity's younger sister. They act and think the same, in some ways. Now, girls, give him some space, Rarity said, trying to calm them down. The three then did just that and backed away. I chuckled by their energy and excitement, due to them meeting a human in real life. I kneeled to them and said, What are your names, young ones? I'm Apple Bloom, the yellow filly greeted. I'm Sweetie Belle, the white filly greeted, smiling. And I'm Scootaloo, orange filly greeted, smiling while giving me a thumbs up. And we are the Cutie Mark Crusaders! Yay! They shouted together. Cutie Mark Crusaders? I asked, a little confused. We crusade to get our cutie marks, Scootaloo explained. But so far we haven't been able to find them, Sweetie Belle said in a defeated tone. We tried everything, and we couldn't even find ours, Apple Bloom added. Knowing how upset they were, I decided to try to cheer them up. I think you got your cutie marks, I said, smiling. Really? They looked at their arms but didn't see anything. Huh? Because you girls are already cuties, I laughed. Three fillies looked at me while Sweetie was blushing a little. Oh, thank you, Daniel, Sweetie said shyly. Blech, too mushy. But thanks for trying to get our hopes up, Scootaloo said. Scootaloo is just like Rainbow. I wonder if they're sisters. Just trying to make every pony smile, I responded, doing just that. So where are you three going in a hurry? Rarity asked. We're on our way to the library to see if Twilight can help us find our cutie marks, Apple Bloom explained. Maybe we'll get our cutie marks as librarians, Sweetie Belle said, excited. Come on, girls, let's get going, Scootaloo said. See you later, Rarity. Bye, Daniel, they called out, running down the path. Stay safe, I called out, looking back to Rarity and chuckled. Kids, what are you going to do about it? I know what you mean, darling. Even though Sweetie Belle can be a handful, I still love her. You're lucky to have a sweet sister like her. Thank you, darling. Anyway, what was it you wanted me to ask me before those three rammed into me? Rarity blushed again. Oh, never mind, dear. Let's just go to my boutique. Why is it bouquet? Why is it spelled like that? Why? It's boutique. Is that how it's spelled? It sounds like it says bouquet. Oh, sorry. Sure, I responded. We finally made it to the boutique, and Rarity opened the door. I looked with awe at the hundreds of dresses around the shop. You made all these dresses? Indeed, darling. Making clothing is my life, she said, smiling. Now, come with me, and I'll take your measurements. I nodded and followed her into the shop. Please take off your clothing so I can properly measure you, she requested. My face flared up, and my body stiffened. What? I asked, shocked. If I need to make your clothing, I need your proper measurements, she explained. I breathed in and out a few times until I was calm. Okay. I took my jacket and shirt off and placed it on the couch close to me. Already the blush on my face deepened. I can't believe I'm taking my clothing off in front of a woman, let alone a mare. A mare, for God's sake! I slowly took my pants off and was blushing to my fullest. It was so intense. My entire face was red. I looked back at Birdie, who was blushing deeply as well. I could see her shaking a little. Let's get this over with quickly, please. Of course, dear. She levitated a measuring tape, a notepad, and a pencil, and started taking my measurements. My body was shaking like crazy. Already was taking the measurements for my clothing. This felt so wrong, and so weird. I'm not sure how much longer I can handle this. All done, darling. Thank Christ! I quickly placed my pants back on and my jacket and shirt. This was seriously the most embarrassing thing of my entire life. Thanks, Rarity. Should I wait or... Oh, you can go ahead and leave. Your clothing will be done tomorrow. I smiled weakly. Okay. I'll see you later then. I waved goodbye and left the boutique. I'm so glad that was done. That was so embarrassing. I sighed and put out my iPhone and listened to my music again. The hours were around evening. I've already finished up my task for the day. Getting a job, got some clothing ready for me tomorrow. I have nothing left to do. So far, the only mare I haven't seen all day is Rainbow. Guess we're busy today. Rudy did mention that Fluttershy left early because she needed to take care of her animals. I decided to go to her place and see what's up, but I didn't know where she lived. I decided to text Twilight to ask where she lived. Hey, Twilight, you there? Hello, Daniel. How's your day going? Decent. I got a job at Applejack's farm and might get a job at Sugarcube Corner. I met up with Rarity today, and she, Fluttershy, and I went to the spa. Wow, you must have had an exciting day. I manage. Speaking of Fluttershy, do you know where she lives? She lives at the edge of the Everfree Forest, not too far from Applejack's farm. Got it. Thanks, Twilight. I'll see you soon. See you soon. Winky face. Did she wink at me? Holy shit, she did. No girl flashed me a wink on a chat before. Well, better get used to it, since I'm going to be talking to all these mares from now on. I placed my phone in my pocket and walked down the path to Fluttershy's house. When I made it there, her home was a small cottage. There was a small stream and a bridge. Trees and bushes grew all around her cottage. I heard of growing green, but this is ridiculous. Her house was also surrounded by a bunch of birdhouses, and hundreds of squirrels, bunnies, and birds were everywhere. Fluttershy must be a really good animal caretaker. I started walking closer to her home until a bird chirped, signaling the others. The animals stopped in their tracks and looked at me. I was surprised that they can communicate with one another, even if they're different species. Everything fell silent, and nothing moved, until a small squirrel came up to me and crawled up my leg. From my chest to my shoulder, I was giggling at the sensation of the little one's feet crawling on my body. The squirrel looked at me with curiosity as I looked back at it. Taking my chances, I smiled and ever slowly reached my fingers at it, slowly and gently stroked the squirrel's chin. It squeaked and chitted happily, nuzzled my cheek. This was too damn adorable for my own good. Suddenly I felt more little feet crawling on my body and felt them land on my shoulders. All the squirrels, bunnies, and birds were gathering around me. I giggled and chuckled by the little critters crawling all over me. Stop! That tickles! Oh my goodness! I looked up and saw Fluttershy looking in awe at the sight of me and the animals. I've never seen them act this way around anybody before. Besides me, of course. Hello, Fluttershy. How are you doing? I asked while some of the animals crawled up my body and went to her. Doing good. I'm still surprised to see the animals react like this to you, Fluttershy responded. Well, like I said, I take a very big liking to animals, no matter how big or small they are. Fluttershy smiled. I'm glad you love animals as much as I do. So, what brings you here to my cottage? If you don't mind me asking, she asked shyly. I decided to drop by and see what you're doing. I never expected to see this many animals here. Do they belong to you? Oh, no, I only take care of them. They live here in my cottage. So, these are all wild? Well, yes and no. They are wild, but they're really nice to other ponies. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Well, would you, like to come in and join me for some tea? How can I ever say no to her, considering she's one of the most fragile ponies I've ever met? I would love to. Thank you, Fluttershy. Fluttershy smiled shyly and blushed. The two of us entered the cottage and looked pretty cozy. You can sit down on the couch and I'll get the tea. I nodded and sat down as she went into the kitchen. I then felt a pair of paws nudging me a little. Looked down and saw a little bunny glaring at me. Hey, little guy, can I help you with something? The bunny chitted and waved his paw from his eyes to mine, saying, I got my eye on you. I simply laughed at this. Little bunny who think that they can threaten me. It's hilarious. Look, little guy, I'm not scared of you. You're too adorable for that kind of thing. However, I underestimated him. He lifted my sleeve and bit down hard on my arm. Ow, son of a... What's going on here? I looked up and saw Fluttershy carrying a tray with our tea. This little guy bit me. Pretty damn hard, too. I hissed, holding my arm while glaring at the little bunny. Fluttershy placed the tray down and looked at the bunny, then surprised me. Angel Bunny, you know better than to bite our guest. That was very rude. Apologize this instant, she demanded with her eyes big. Little bunny shivered in fear, then chitted and bowed his head and ran off. I'm really sorry about Angel, Daniel. He's just being overprotective of me, Fluttershy explained in a sad tone. I forced a smile. It's okay. I understand, but the biting thing was a little unnecessary. I know. How about I take a look at that? The last thing you want is an infection if it's bleeding. Alright. I held my arm and showed her my wound. It was bleeding a little. Damn, that bunny can bite hard. I'll give him that. You're bleeding, but doesn't seem to be that bad. I'll be right back with the first aid kit. She left the room and went upstairs. I sighed and clutched my biting wound. It hurts like hell, but nothing that big. Fluttershy came back down a second later with the first aid in her hands. She shut it down and opened it, and took out some kind of ointment and bandage wraps. Knowing what was going to happen, I removed my hand from my wound so Fluttershy could get access to it. Fluttershy poured some of the ointment on a cloth. Now, this might sting a bit, Daniel, she said. I nodded. Don't worry, I'm sure I can handle a little sting. She nodded and gently started patting my wound. I hissed when I felt the sting touch my wound, but after a few seconds I felt a cooling sensation from it. I sighed, happy that the stinging stopped. I closed my eyes and waited while Fluttershy continued her attention to my bite. She's such a good animal taker, not to mention amazing with handling wounds. Fluttershy finished up and wrapped my wound with a bandage wrap. There, all done. I opened my eyes and looked at my bandage. I was happy she helped me out. I could never be more grateful to her. I looked at her and smiled. Thank you, Fluttershy. She returned the smile and blushed. You're welcome. She grabbed the teacups and handed one to me. I thanked her and took a sip. It had a sweet nectar taste, along with a hint of honey and lemon that blended perfectly. This is great, Fluttershy. I'm glad you like it. While we enjoyed our company and tea, some of the animals scurried onto our bodies, making us giggle in the process. This happiness continues to grow within my very heart, making me more than happy than ever before. After the two of us finished up, Fluttershy put the teacups in the sink. and we decided to go outside for the moment. The sun was beginning to set, and I decided to watch it. You enjoy watching the sun go down? Fluttershy asked. I smiled and nodded. Yeah, my mother and I always watch the sunset together, remembering our happiest moments from our days, I responded. What was your happiest part of your day, if you don't mind me asking? I looked at her and smiled warmly. Being welcomed and surrounded by beautiful mares who gave so much happiness, care, and friendship, I answered. Fluttershy blushed deeply and played with her hair. You, you think I'm beautiful? She asked nervously. I smiled and placed my hand on hers, looking into her sky blue eyes. Of course, Fluttershy. You and your friends are very beautiful mares. Each of you have different personalities that fit you all perfectly. Your shyness and care for animals is warming and amazing, making you very beautiful. The blush on her cheeks deepened more, but smiled. Thank you, Daniel. I smiled and pulled her into a warm embrace, making her eep in surprise. But after a few seconds, I felt her arms wrap around me, returning the hug. I released my hug from her and looked back at the setting sun. Watching the warmth of the sun made me happy. I didn't know that I was stroking Fluttershy's mane in the process. Daniel, what are you doing? She asked. I looked at her and saw my hand on her mane, and I quickly withdrew my hand. Sorry, must have started out of impulse, I explained while a blush formed on my cheeks. I looked back at her and she was blushing as well. Um, actually, it felt nice. Can you do it again, please? The blush on my cheeks grew, but I slowly raised my hand and continued stroking her pink mane. It felt so soft and silky to my touch, and made me relax. I saw Fluttershy relaxing as well, while her eyelids grew heavy. This feels amazing. It feels like I'm in a dream, she whispered and then leaned on my shoulder, making my blush deepen. But I smiled. Her company was quiet, welcoming, and so peaceful. The two of us continued enjoying our company until I realized it was now getting dark. I shook Fluttershy's shoulder ever so gently. Fluttershy, I whispered. Her eyes opened slowly and she looked up at me. Daniel? I gotta get back to the library now. I think it's time for you to get some sleep, whispered while smiling. Fluttershy nodded softly and tried to get up, but I saw she was too tired to do so. I smiled and gently picked her up bridle style, making her look up at me in surprise, while another blush formed on her cheeks. With a smile, I carried her into the cottage. As I did, I felt her nuzzle into my chest with a smile on her own face. I blushed at the sentiment. I walked up the stairs and into her room, and gently put her into her bed and pulled the covers over her. Good night, Fluttershy, I whispered. Good night, Daniel, Fluttershy whispered back. I smiled and stroked her pink mane one last time before heading for the door and slowly closing it. I walked downstairs and opened the front door and closed it behind me and left the cottage, taking a calm, soft walk back to the library. Daniel was by far one of the most nicest, sweetest humans I've ever met. I was a little scared of him when he first came to Ponyville, but after getting to know him and spending time with him, he's such a sweet boy. No, I love him. I truly love him. I've never felt like this before. I've always heard of love at first sight, but to experience it in real life felt so different. I don't know if I should tell him that I love him. I guess I can try to tell him tomorrow. I hope he understands. I slowly closed my eyes and dreamed about Daniel, the two of us living happily together. The walk back to the library was very relaxing and very calm. I'm glad I came to this new world. I think I can finally let go of the past and look forward to my future with a newfound happiness, care, and friendship. I came to the library and opened the door. All the lights were off, knowing Spike and Twilight are fast asleep. I saw a small lit candle with a note on the side of it. I took off my shoes, placed my bag down along with my sword, and walked over to the note and read it. Daniel, if you get this note, me and Spike are asleep right now. Your bed is in my room. Please try not to make any noise when you enter. I'll see you in the morning. Your friend, Twilight Sparkle. I smiled and sighed, feeling happy. I slowly then walked up the stairs, trying not to make any noise. Opening the door, and saw Twilight and Spike sound asleep. Rarity. Spike mumbled in his sleep, making kissy faces. I placed my hands over my mouth, trying not to laugh. Spike really likes her. A lot. My laugh was silenced when I heard Twilight mumble in her sleep as well. Daniel. Daniel. I love you. Okay, either I'm going crazy right now, or I just heard Twilight say I love you in her sleep. Does Twilight really love me? What about the others? Oh, this is so hard to process. I've never been in a relationship before. I don't know what to do. Guess I'll try to process it tomorrow. I slowly walked up to my bed and laid down, pulling the covers over my head and body and allowed sleep to take hold.